it was funny because I was actually about your morning routines, and I thought you were going to say something that you didn't bring up. That's like listed in your bio. So I was going to just jump into that next question. I mean, being that you're an avid reader, I want to know what
Mhm.
kind of books kind of motivated you on your journey to get to where you are currently.
Yeah, that happens early. So I usually wake up like 5:30. So you're right. The reading, that's what I do right now. I'm reading this book. So I read a lot of like self-help. This one is called The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Brandon. And I'm all about this, just educating one on psychology, on philosophy, because that's my field, on what self-esteem is, how it can be impacted, all that stuff that deals with mindset, personal empowerment, personal development. I'm really into it. I'm even now like looking into getting my doctorate in human behavior, just because I feel like I'm so curious about this stuff, man. And like you can learn, a lot by yourself. But for me, like that structure education of going and get that degree just makes it so I can focus in on one thing and like learn very deeply in that, because I really want to serve everyone, like some key information that may not be getting hit in our communities as much as it should be.
Hmm. So I mean, you brought up a really solid point, and I've had this debate on this show probably a dozen times, and outside with
Mhm.
friends as well too. It's kind of like, learning through real world examples or learning through paid education or
Yeah,
somewhere in the middle, like hiring a coach to kind of help you get through your next hurdle or your next monetary goal. So what you're saying is you're somewhere in the middle, right? I would think, because again, you want the general education, but at the same time you have certificates and you've proven yourself to take many courses as well. So are you more
sure, man.
50-50? Are you 25-75? Where do you sit?
Man, I'm be honest. I just realized my background is blurred, but that this to tell you where I sit, man. I am an avid. I love getting education, formal education, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's not for the reason a lot of people think. People say it's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of resources, a waste of everything. I disagree, because the reason why I go for it is because at one point I felt like it was unattainable. Right. At one point, I felt like I could never get the master's degree. I could never even get a bachelor's degree. I struggled for so long to get it, man. And that's why I'm like, yo, I believe this changes your thinking in a different way.
Mm.
Not to mention, you get a different network of people and all these other things, and it opens you up to different access of things you wouldn't even think of. Like these schools, I can contact them now, their business center, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we might have this group of people who can hire you and all that stuff in their company." So it gives you access to that. But for me, it was more of a personal reason. It was a goal of mine to finish what I started
Mhm.
and get something that was unattainable. And I feel like, with more and more people not going to school, formal education, it it changes that, right? Like it's like, some fields you need this. You
Yeah.
absolutely need this. And with the language of like school is a waste of money and time, everyone's saying they're an entrepreneur, and that's just not the case. Right? Everyone can't be an entrepreneur, because who's doing the work for these companies,
Correct.
right? That's one. But I just look at it as a different way, man. I think you have to have that balance. Formal education brings something different, and then the street smarts, or educating yourself with the YouTube university and all that other stuff, brings a different perspective, because when you self-educate, it's from your lens usually, right? It's from your lens. So that's why I believe the formal education kicks in, or hiring someone else, paying for a course. You get a different perspective on things.
Hmm. And I think for your field, right? And earlier on, you saying that you're not necessarily a therapist, but it seems that
Mm-hmm.
you think like a therapist, and by thinking like
Mm-hmm.
that, by default, you're going into more the medical side. And if you're going to get education, by all means, you want an educated lawyer and you want an educated
Yes.
medical person. Everything else, there's a little
Yes.
bit of gray space, but when it comes
Yep.
to those two, it's kind of like it's a no-brainer. You're gonna have to get that
No
education.
brainer.
So
Right.
it definitely
Right.
makes
For
sense.
sure. For sure.
So my next question is just going back to the books. I mean, obviously you're an author as well. So let's talk about some of the books
Yes,
you've had an
sir.
opportunity to write and author.
Yeah, man. So this is Own Your Kingdom. This was my first book. And this is a lot of what I talked about earlier: forgiving yourself, vulnerability, and strength, and all that is in this book. It helps you create an action plan for success. And it's not just a book to read, right? There's a workbook that you download, and you actually go through the exercises that I mentioned throughout this book in order to really get that introspection that I was talking about. Right. So a lot of people say that the workbook had them asking questions to themselves, like, "Oh shoot, you know what? I need to do some work."
Hmm.
So that's a great book. That's one of my. I'm proud of that one, right? And then this one is a collaboration book. It's called All Gas No Brakes, and
Hmm.
this one is 10 of us who wrote, and we're all entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And the perspective that we wrote this was from where we came from, what obstacles we faced, how did we get over them in order to become successful in our space now. So that's a good book for people who may be stuck. Maybe they want to start a business. They just don't know what's going on or how to get over what they were stuck on. That's a good book for them.